Okay, I think we can go ahead and get started now. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for today's event, the Community Energy Innovation Prize Meet the Power Connectors and Previous Winners. I'm Lynn Abramson, President of the Clean Energy Business Network, and we are one of the power connectors that is supporting this prize, and we're here to introduce you to the other power connectors, as well as winners of previous community-based prizes that are similar to this prize, and we'll give a little further context on that. Just a couple of housekeeping notes before we begin. I want to first start out by encouraging people to introduce themselves in the chat. So drop us a note, let others know who you are, where you're calling in from, and what the name of your team or organization is. And feel free at any point throughout this event to be dropping questions into the chat. We're going to have several opportunities to go over those, but mostly at the end after we've heard from our various panelists. So I'm going to start, if we can go to the next slide, by reviewing some key information about the American-made challenges and network, just to set the stage for this prize and how it fits into that broader landscape. Just got a reminder, I wanted to make sure I also note that we are recording this event and we will distribute that recording and the slides along with a lot of links to the key resources that we are mentioning. So just to kind of first set the stage for the American Made program. This is a program that's funded by the Department of Energy and administered by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, which seeks to incentivize innovation through a series of prize competitions, training, teaming, mentoring, and connections that help to bring together the nation's entrepreneurs and innovators with national labs, the private sector, and a variety of other partners. So we're going to introduce some terms that are kind of important for you to understand as you navigate this prize and what kinds of resources are available to support you. Within the American-Made network, there are two main types of support providers. The power connectors are contractors who are not part of NREL, not part of DOE, but rather external partners that are brought in to provide support and recruitment to applicants as well as winners of the specific prizes. So our work as power connectors is to really help extend the reach and improve the inclusivity of that network. Additionally, there are a variety of connectors that you can find through the network. And these are folks who are not necessarily contracted on specific prizes in an ongoing, sustained way, but do offer some sort of support, assistance, or other types of partnership opportunities for various prize applicants. And these could include professionals from national laboratories, accelerators, incubators, universities, industry, other facilities. And there is a search tool available on the American-Made network page where you can look for and match with prospective partners matching your interests. So I just want to flag that if you try to connect with a connector who matches your interests, just recognize that person may not be on contract to support this prize, may or may not have time to engage at this moment. It's really just sort of a networking tool. But the power connectors, whom we are introducing on today's call, we are here to be a resource for you, and we are leading both group events as well as one-on-one office hours to support you in your application process. So we want to make sure you know who we are, how to reach us, and what kinds of activities we are planning as a resource for you. So if you go on to the next slide, let's just start with a little bit of overview of this prize. For those of you who have already participated in some of the Department of Energy's training webinars, this will be a review for you, but we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with this basic information. So the Community Energy Innovation Prize is a new prize competition through the American-Made Challenges, which seeks to support capacity building, innovation, entrepreneurship, and economic development relating to clean energy and climate for disadvantaged communities. There are 3 tracks. There's a collegiate track focusing on academic programs. There is a workforce development area and a clean energy technology area. I mentioned there's 3 tracks. They all have components in those areas. So there's approximately almost 7.5 million in total prizes that will be made available across various stages. And it's a very broad pool of eligibility. So private entities, which include for-profits and nonprofits, non-federal government entities, state, local governments, tribes, academic institutions, and individuals can all apply. But the goal really is to build a collaborative project, have multiple partners who can execute on that. So the tracks, I'm going to go through these. There's the Clean Energy Ecosystem track, which is a sort of general catch-all track. So if you don't fit into the other two tracks I'm going to discuss, this is the track for you. This provides up to $210,000 per applicant across multiple phases, plus some grand prizes. You also will receive mentorship. And this is a very broad, it's for community-led projects that advance clean energy transition across a very wide range of clean energy initiatives. So I mentioned some of the areas of focus before, but these could include workforce training, some projects in rural or low resource communities to introduce clean energy or sort of energy independence to those areas. Other kinds of technical assistance programs to help your stakeholders navigate energy efficiency and renewable energy solutions for their communities, or to accelerate the development of incubators, accelerators, sort of innovation support within your communities. So the application deadline for this track is February 2nd, 2024. So a lot of time to start putting together the pieces of that application. The next track is the manufacturing ecosystem track, which also will provide up to $210,000 per winner, as well as some grand prizes and in-kind mentorship. And this is similar, but is really focused in particular on communities and organizations that have been historically underserved and are working to further development of manufacturing ecosystems. So examples could be developing a curriculum at a local university for clean energy manufacturing or related skill sets, working with regional manufacturers to develop business plans for local production, engaging with various regional manufacturers to develop plans for how to produce or use their materials in lower carbon ways. So several of you, I think, on this call may have applied for the Make It prize. The application was due yesterday. This has some overlap with the goals of that prize, but is a little bit broader in terms of the types of eligible activities that are included. Next slide, please. The collegiate track. This provides up to $35,000 per awardee, as well as grand prizes and in-kind mentorship. And this is, as it's indicated in the name, focused on collegiate teams. So the goal is to really help students emerge as leaders in clean energy and forge opportunities for them to participate in real-world collaboration. So it's particularly encouraged that students from minority-serving institutions, universities in rural or disadvantaged communities, and community colleges, so essentially communities that have been historically underserved and underrepresented in the clean energy economy, are especially encouraged to apply. So examples could include working with community organizations in the community surrounding that campus to assist in the clean energy transition, identifying some sort of project that could be implemented by the students and university in partnership with local organizations, or developing some recommendations for how to weatherize, retrofit, or otherwise bring clean energy solutions to the local community. This track has a much sooner application deadline than the other two. So this one is due November 3rd, as opposed to February 2nd for the others. And the reason for that is because the goal is to execute this track and wrap up the projects within the time frame of a typical academic year. So we'll talk a little bit further about specific training and preparation opportunities relating to this track to help those who are applying get ready as soon as possible. So next slide. Now we're just going to briefly introduce each of the power connectors that are providing support to applicants on this prize. We'll talk a little bit about our areas of expertise and resources, and then the specific activities that we will be supporting. So I mentioned earlier that I am Lynn Abramson with the Clean Energy Business Network. I have several of my colleagues that are also on this call as well, and you'll be seeing them in our group events. And our organization is a nationwide nonprofit that serves as the small business voice for the clean energy economy. We work with a little over 8,000 small business and community leaders nationwide to help improve access and support engagement in the clean energy economy. And we do this through policy support, helping communities and smaller businesses that don't have a voice in Washington to better understand what types of policy developments and government programs are impacting clean energy opportunities. Also just exchanging information and promoting market and technology education. And then finally, business development assistance, mainly in the form of aggregating useful resources and tools for these business and community leaders. So for example, we have a completely free funding database where we're going and aggregating and tagging various funding opportunities at all levels of government and private sector. We produce a lot of blog posts and educational content and emails to help you stay informed. So in terms of our Power Connector support, we have scheduled out group office hours on a variety of Thursdays and Fridays now through February 2nd. And these are open to applicants of all of the tracks. The next one is going to be scheduled Friday, October 27th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And these are opportunities to pop in. You can register at the very last minute or even register while the event is in progress. You do just need to register in order to get the login information. But you can pop in last minute, ask any questions of our team, meet fellow applicants. So if you're particularly looking to connect with others who might be, partners on your team, you can introduce yourself. And depending on the size of the group, you can also share some details on your project and get feedback. And if needed, we can also pull folks into one-on-one rooms if we have a large volume of people on these events. So there to be a flexible resource for you. We are also leading a handful of these group workshops and events, and there's the one today, and then on November 16th, we'll be collaborating with our fellow Power Connector Yet2 on a teaming workshop. And for that one, it's specifically geared at trying to help you network with other potential applicants, as well as we'll talk a little bit about some of the effective strategies for partnership building, which is very important for this prize. We have a registration link, or my colleagues are dropping that in the chat. We also have a teaming form that you can complete to express interest in particular types of partnerships. So now I'd like to introduce our other fellow Power Connectors. I'm going to start with Yet2. So Megan is going to tell us a little bit about their research.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Lynn. So I work for Yet2. My name is Megan Waldock, and I'm one of the key people working with this prize challenge from the Yet2 side. I'm also joined by my colleague, Andrea Guemez, who's also on. But just to give a little bit of an overview of Yet2, we are an open innovation and technology scouting consulting company. So we have worked in the industry for over 20 years, and we work across industries. So we work with clients from every sector of the science and technical fields, and are really enjoy getting to work as a Power Connector with NREL. A lot of our work, both with NREL and some other clients, is matching clients that are large organizations with organizations that have a technology solution for them. So maybe a startup or somebody who is in the early stages of commercialization, or a university. So this work with NREL as a Power Connector is a lot of fun for us to get to help to continue to kind of be that matchmaker and really be a trusted partner for our client and the partners that we work with to really make sure that everybody is getting value out of the arrangement. So that's just a quick overview of Yet2. We will be working, as Lynn said, on the partnering and kind of teaming workshop in November next month. And we'll also be hosting one-on-one office hours. So you can see that link at the bottom there. I'll post it in the chat as well in a second. So please feel free to reach out, and we're happy to help with any questions, or if you want to have a quick chat, feel free to schedule some time with us, and we're happy to do so. Great, Lynn, I'll hand it back to you. Thank you.
Fantastic. And now we'll hear from Cassie from Entrepreneur Futures Network.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cassie Corvos, Engagement Director with Entrepreneur Futures Network. At EFN, we provide training, accelerator, mentorship, and funding development programs, and we work across all industries, but we do have a pretty strong clean tech focus. And as a Power Connector for this prize, we're focused specifically on the collegiate track. So we've been doing the bulk of our office hours and our trainings leading up to the deadline on November 3rd, but we are open to anyone. So if our timing works best for you, you're welcome to join us at those office hours and we can answer questions about any track. But we do have a really strong university focus. So this QR code is the link to sign up for the office hours. And I have my email on the slide here and I'll put it in the chat as well. All right, thank you.
Fantastic. And then finally from ADL Ventures, I think we have Matt. Is Matt on the line?
This is Frank. I'm going to do the
Frank.
ADL
Hey,
part.
Frank. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, hi, I'm Frank Yang. I'm with a partner with ADL Ventures, and we've been a Power Connector since the program launched in 2020. And I previously had 12 plus years of experience in the solar industry, and we've supported most of the solar related Power Connector engagements that NREL has done. So as a brief background on ADL, we're a venture consulting organization. We help corporates and government clients develop various commercialization initiatives. Some of the projects you may be familiar with include not only the Power Connector work, but the Advanced Building Construction Collaborative with DOE and RMI, as well as the recently announced Uptake Alliance with the state of New York. On this prize in particular, our work is going to be focused on engaging universities. Much of our work involves the intersection of academia, corporate, and government. And most recently on the Lab Match Prize with NREL, we also did a lot of work advocating emerging technologies to universities for licensing. And we have a lot of experience in different forms of collaboration with universities. And so our goal here is focused not only on recruitment, but of course, as always, applicant support and finding interesting strategic mechanisms to advance some of the ideas that Lynn talked about. I want to just hand off briefly to my colleague Nagara, who's been helping with a lot of the university engagement. She'll talk a little bit about some of the work that we've done there, as well as how we can support any teams that have yet to come to us.
Hi everyone, my name is Nagara and I work at ADL, and so far we've been doing a significant amount of outreach targeting individuals at universities and academic institutions that would fit the prize and help other individuals and their communities have more equitable access to clean energy. And so we've been getting great feedback on that. And in addition to that, we've been reaching out to non-federal government entities, nonprofits. And so we've got great emails and are glad to help out with any application support. As you can see at the bottom of this slide right here, we provided our email and also an office hour sign up. Our office hours will take place every Tuesday from here on out, and they'll just be a 30-minute one-on-one session. So if you would like to reach out to us for application support, to bounce off ideas or to ask any questions, we'd be happy to help. Yeah, so back to you, Lynn.
Fantastic. And now, actually, can we go to the next slide, Awa? Yes, so I'd like to invite all of our Power Connector staff back on the stage for a moment. And I will say to our audience, if you have any questions for the Power Connectors, we'll take a couple of minutes to take those now before we also introduce the previous prize winners. But we'd like to invite our Power Connectors back on the stage and just start by asking each of the Power Connectors to just share a little bit of information about any advice that you may have for applicants. And I can kick that off if Cassie, do you want to go first?
Sure, I can jump in by just saying to take advantage of as many resources as you can. I know that with 4 different organizations, it might feel you don't know where to start, but we are having this workshop and we're all working together because we want to provide a well-rounding of support, and we can also direct you to the right spot if you come to one set of office hours and you're looking for another. So I would just say, if you're not sure where to start anywhere, and attend the workshops, meet with people. The more support and resources you can get is really just going to help you in the long run.
Yeah, and I think to your point too, of it's where do you start? One of the things we've worked to coordinate amongst ourselves and with NREL and DOE is to kind of break it out into tasks and themes, right? And so, you know, I think based on when you look at the group events, it's like, are you looking for collegiate track or just something general? Go to the EFN or go to the CEBN group office hours. Are you interested in one-on-one support? You know, these are a little bit, they're all, like, different times, but for the most part, they're broken down by schedule and days of the week. So it's just kind of see which power connector is available to meet at the time that's convenient to you. And we do each have different areas of expertise, but we've been working together a long time. You know, we're all familiar with these kinds of prizes. And so any one of us can honestly provide you with the support you need. And if we connect with you and say, oh, you know, Cassie or Frank or Megan or someone else would actually be a really good resource for you, we can follow up and make that connection. So curious if others, you know, Megan, Frank, others have any comments?
Yeah, I just have one quick comment before we moved on. So ADL has also done a number of learning modules for other FOAs and prizes, which are available on YouTube. That talks a lot about different elements of both the business model and value proposition design, as well as other details in the application process. And so one thing we just want to emphasize is we're here, I think, as a group to support all requests, no matter how basic or simple you may think it is. Don't hesitate to come to us with a question, because I think it's easier to get those questions answered early on than to find out at the 11th hour that you may have an issue. And I think we've all, in our own experience applying for these, you know, made those mistakes and learned from them. So yeah, we encourage, and there's certainly no limitation on the number of engagements you have with either Power Connector as well. So yeah, just want to encourage you to get up to speed earlier rather than later. And, you know, our door's always open for additional conversations as your case evolves.
Excellent. Megan?
Yeah, I'll just echo what they've already said, what Cassie and Frank have already said. Please feel free to reach out at any time. You know, we find that the conversations we've had in previous prize challenges have been really helpful, I think, for all sides, and for us to get to share, you know, what some feedback might be for your application, or just giving some insight into some of the different parts of the application that you're working on and might not have clarity on. So please feel free to reach out at any time.
Great. And I will mention, I hadn't formally introduced him, but we also have Lance Holly, who's one of the prize administrators from NREL, who is on this call. Hey, Lance. And part of the reason I just called you up is actually I'm going to enlist you. I'm going to give a tentative answer to this question we received in the chat, but also turn it over to you. So we did receive an audience question asking, will prize winners need to sign a contract or other agreement, MOU? Are there certain reporting requirements? I would particularly refer people to Appendix 1 in the rules, which kind of gets at the requirements. But one of the great things, you will have to do something to get the funds, and Lance will tell us now what that is. But one of the amazing things about the prizes is, unlike other types of federal funding opportunities, it's not a grant. You don't have a lot of reporting. You actually really don't have any reporting. It's just, if you want to advance to the next phase of a prize, you should explain what you did previously and what you're going to do next. Like, so that's really the only reporting. So it's a simple application, very low barrier to entry. You don't have to be registered in the SAM and all these different systems. Super, super simple. So Lance, with all that being said, what do you need to do to actually get your cash?
Sure. Thanks, Lynn. And as Lynn said, I'm Lance Hawley. I'm on the NREL team as one of the administrators for this prize. And Lynn was exactly right on that answer. We ask, as part of the general application process, for all applicants to sign a general eligibility acknowledgement. And that's just saying, I am who I am. This is my idea. This is my, authentic team or product or whatever it is. But that's it in terms of signing any agreements, in terms of what you are doing with any prize money or what you are doing with your project. We have had some questions in the past where people say, you know, do I have to sign over any sort of IP or anything like that? No, you do not. Do I have to sign anything reporting how I'm using prize money? No, you do not. As Lynn said, this is a cash prize that goes to meritorious awardees to use as they please. Obviously, it is meant to help projects and initiatives move through different stages, and that's why prizes are set up the way they are, so that teams win money and then can use it to help win more money as they advance their projects. But ultimately, note, you will not be tasked with reporting on how prize money is used after you are selected as a winner. And also, I'll just ping full breakdowns of a lot of those sort of in the weeds questions about specific rules or any kind of legal questions are clearly laid out in our official rules document on HeroX, which I posted in the chat as well. So always check that out. Thanks, Lynn.
Great, thank you so much. And then I see one other question that I'll answer, and then we can go into the previous winners conversation. But we had a question: if we don't know exactly how a power connector might help us, does it make sense to meet anyway to explain our program and goals so they can tell us if and how they might help? Yes. And in fact, I would say all 4 of our organizations can operate pretty interchangeably in supporting your organization. So for the vast majority of these meetings, the way it works is whether it's a group setting or a one-on-one setting, you're coming in, you'll share a little bit about your project. We will go over some of the requirements, answer any questions you have. Any of us are equipped to provide general feedback. We're all very experienced in supporting applicants on these types of prizes. So we understand the system, what they're looking for, how to interpret the rules, general questions you might have. So pretty interchangeably, we can support you on that type of thing. If you're looking for very specific areas of expertise or connections, go ahead and meet anyway. Like, let's say you're saying, you come in and you're saying, I really need a person who's got expertise on heat exchangers with this kind of efficiency. Okay, we may not all know that, but we are tapped into the network, and so we can collaborate with each other to try to connect you to somebody who can help on that. So hopefully that answers your question. We can get into the weeds of that further, but I would like to now introduce our previous prize winners and call them up to the stage to talk about themselves and their projects. Just for context, this prize, the Community Energy Innovation Prize, is a combination of 2 previous prizes that were issued through the American Made Challenges, which are the Inclusive Energy Innovation Prize and the Community Clean Energy Coalition Prize. And so we're really thrilled to have 4 representatives of previous prize teams here on this call, and we're going to ask them each to just tell us briefly, who are you, what was your project that won, and then we'll take some audience questions, and I also have some discussion questions just to get at your advice for how some of your peers can be successful as well. So perhaps we'll start with Rebecca and Maddie from Team Philly. Then we'll go to Shanti and finally David.
Yeah, hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm with the Energy Coordinating Agency in Philadelphia, and we're part of Team Philly, which is part of the Community Clean Energy Coalition Prize. We do a lot of things in Philadelphia. We do home repair, energy efficiency, community outreach, and workforce development. Our specific prize project is to scale up community outreach. We have a neighborhood energy center model that we've been using for many decades, where we serve people within community centers to help them access utility assistance and improve their climate resilience. All of our work is focused on low-income communities, so we're looking to scale that up with a mobile energy center with our partners to really reach more people and facilitate the clean energy transition.
Yeah, and I will add, so I'm with Drexel University, and we're supporting this effort. And some of the things that we're going to be doing is doing mapping of energy burdens, and that will then inform where the mobile energy center will go, tailor the kind of outreach. We'll also be doing some through our business school, doing some demographic economic analysis. And then through our graphic school, we'll be developing graphics for the Mobile Energy Center. In terms of advice, I would say that, clearly demonstrating the strength of
I'm going to pause you right
Sure.
there.
Sure.
I want to quickly introduce our other prize winners, and then I want to come back to you all for some advice.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I'll go next. My name is Shanti Devins, and I'm based in Missoula, Montana. And we formed a newly formed, we didn't exist before this prize, Clean Energy Workforce Coalition. And really the goal of our coalition is to help those who are underrepresented in the trades have access to these livable wage careers. So specifically, we've started working with low-income moms, a large percentage of whom identify as an Indigenous population in a community that has a pretty small Indigenous population. So yeah, and I'm excited to share more about it here in a few minutes.
David?
Oh yeah. Okay, so Dr. David Noah of Nano Research Inc. And we focus on clean energy. We focus on energy harvesting and energy storage. And then we also do battery works for development. And through the initial prize, we were able to collaborate with several universities like Georgia Tech, Atlanta Technical College, and Kansas State University, and we're going ahead to apply for more funds to scale our initial prize.
Excellent. Well, thank you all again for joining and sharing your experience, having gone through this process not so long ago yourselves. And so I wanted to just start out, and I encourage our audience members to go ahead and drop their questions in the chat for these fine folks here, pick their brains. But I want to start off by asking what you wish you knew before applying for the prize. But Maddie, too, I knew you were about to chime in with something, so feel free to take that also as just a general question.
Yeah, I wish I knew a lot of things, but anyway. So I think just in terms of the application, I think that demonstrating the strength of the partnership and what each partnership is going to do. I also think that, as Rebecca talked about, in terms of the focus of equity and disadvantaged communities, we pulled together the demographics and mapping in terms of what communities and need the kind of services that would be the basis of the proposal. And also, I would say in terms of the phases, really take advantage of the phases. I think, as you talked about, the first phase is really to kind of nurture the partnership, and then from that first phase, kind of using that partnership to develop the implementation activities.
And I think I can go next unless Rebecca, did you want to piggyback on that? Okay.
Okay,
so just kind of following up on what was shared about the prize, it was such a gift to us, and I think we wish we had known what a gift that would be, and just it would have made us even more excited to apply for it. The project that we're working on here in Missoula was actually born out of climate conversations where we realized there's a lot of work to do with housing and electrification and weatherization, and we didn't have the workforce. And so that was the kernel of the problem that we identified. And then we realized how inequitable our workforce here is in Missoula, even though there's so many opportunities for these great livable wage careers that don't require a lot of prior, investment in education degrees. And so really what we brought to the table is we knew we had this problem. We knew who we wanted at the table to solve this problem, but we had no idea how to solve it. And I think we were all a little bit anxious about that going into the application. And the gift of the prize has been that it's really allowed us to design something from the ground up that's been able to adapt as we learn lessons from the moms that we're working with, as our other community partners that we're working with. And so I would just say my piece of advice is if you know who needs to be at the table and you know what you want to solve, that's enough to apply. And this is such a gift to give you that space to figure it out.
So, well, for us, what we wish we knew was back to what Marty said, with respect to the community engagement. We were a little bit too broad. I wish we would focus more on a few communities and then drill deep into that sector. That's one. Then I also wish we knew more of the community and the power connectors and connectors. I thought we lost out not depending a lot on them because they know a lot and they could be helpful to us. So I think knowing more about the power connectors, what they do, and then the connectors is very helpful because after the fact, we gain a lot from the connectors.
Yeah, and I would say that is one area too where sometimes, I mean, I don't know what will happen with this prize, but sometimes there's ongoing support for the winners. And I would say even if there isn't formally, once you're part of this community, there's just so much opportunity to continue the learning. So again, happy to have questions from the audience, but oh, I see we did actually receive one. Did you partner with organizations who were already serving your intended audience? That's a great question.
We have one partner in Missoula that is working exclusively with Mountain Home Moms, but everybody else in our coalition wasn't actually working with underserved communities. We all were coming from different perspectives, whether it was climate goals. We partner with the county's climate office, and it was the aligned climate goals that got us started. And then we brought in our Missoula Economic Partnership, which is really on the business side. And we're able to bring in the perspective of like, how can businesses benefit from this work?
Yeah, we had a similar experience where we weren't necessarily partnering with organizations who were serving the communities we serve yet, or we weren't necessarily partnered with organizations, you know, these specific organizations before the project. So it's been really valuable to build those relationships and leverage those resources that we wouldn't otherwise have.
Yeah, so for us also after the fact, we partner with the local government, the counties, and that was also very helpful. But after the fact, they give us a link to other funding agencies. And also the fact that they want to work with us to get more funding to implement our projects. So working with the local government also very, very helpful.
Great, yeah, and I think one of the things that I find interesting about the approach of this prize, as opposed to the Community Clean Energy Coalition prize, for example, is that they both give you more time for the initial application, but also in that first concept stage to continue to build the relationships and make that more ongoing. And I talked a moment ago about how there's often some sort of ongoing support, and they have articulated in the rules that, you know, there will be some kind of resource sharing, peer learning provided, you know, there will be technical assistance. And so to some of the points you guys raised, I think it's just, no matter where you are and how advanced your coalition is, this is a great entry point. So, oh, I see somebody in the chat asking for possible partners in Kentucky. So if you are based in Kentucky, introduce yourself to Bob. But Bob, you should also come to our teaming event, and we can also help you out in our one-on-one office hours to try to look for those connections. So I will highlight one of our team members on the call, Ali Judge, is a Kentucky native. So, hey, Ali. Go Kentucky. So another question I have for our previous prize winners is, so we talk about there are different phases and there are different requirements along those phases to demonstrate progress and compete for additional cash prizes. So can you talk about how you stayed on track with each of those phases? What was challenging? What was easy? Any advice on that front?
I mean, I think what was important to us as a coalition was meeting on a regular basis. We meet monthly to check in and share resources and advance our goals. And then we coordinate online as well, but that has been really helpful, and we hope that that continues beyond the prize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would add to these monthly meetings, just kind of drilling down on what's the unique value that each of the partners can bring to deliver on the outcomes as set forth in the original prize. All right, so.
We also meet really regularly, and I think it's been such a gift. I think, like Rebecca said, that we've got these relationships we didn't have before, and it's really amplified like all these other avenues. And I think one thing that we struggle with is like there are so many opportunities we didn't realize. We're like, how do we, I think what David said too, how do we like, you know, keep it focused? And something that we were able to do in phase 2 was build in some budget for a coordinator. It's part-time, but it's somebody who can really make this their entire, you know, workload for 20 hours a week. And that's just been so amazing to help us like continue momentum, make more connections that all of us are partnering on, but that's been really, really helpful.
Yeah, and once we, oh, so go ahead, David.
Oh, no, finish.
Well, once we started building momentum within the prize, we did actually receive funding from other sources to like complement the prize money, which was really just like a fabulous, you know, amazing gift that happened as well.
Oh, what I was going to add to my other colleagues is that we had an implementation plan for each of the phases. So, and then we've shared it among the team members. That is one. And then we also have an Excel sheet, you know, that we have all the funding programs that we want in that Excel sheet. And then personally, I also keep, and then, of course, being a CEO of the company, you have overall view. So I have a summary business plan because we see it as part of the revenue, right? So I have a summary business plan, and I have this at the back end. So every time I pick it up, I go and check all the plans, the phases of our program. And lastly, on my phone, on the calendar, I have it all the phases on my phone. So any day I pick, like today, looking for this program, I can see what we have, you know, for all the phases of our programs. So this is the way we keep track of our phases.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think I want to actually go back to is just in terms of how you can navigate that prize along the way and use those prize funds as you win the different phases. One thing I want to rewind to is when Shanti mentioned hiring the project coordinator. I mean, one of the things we hear so often as we support these teams that are applying is, I don't have a grant writer, I don't have staff, I don't have capacity to even pursue the federal funds that are out there. I'm hearing about these multi-million-dollar grants that are out there and I can't even compete. And that's actually one of the best things you can do with a prize like this is build up that capacity, hire those staff that can actually administer a program, go hire those grant writers, go hire those experts that you need. And these prizes can be a good feeder opportunity for larger pools of funds. So figure out all those government registrations and how to apply for those bigger dollar grants. Go get yourself a couple of $1 million next, you know? So really hope people can think of this as that opportunity to scale. So appreciate the perspectives on that. This is a question we received in the chat that's specific to this prize, but I think also could be relevant to your experience with your coalitions is, do you know if winners will be more likely to get awards if they formed new coalitions with partners they hadn't worked with before, or would existing coalitions be just as likely to be successful? And, you know, my advice on that is it's all over the map. If you look at the rules, it's really speaking more to the goals of the project. It's helpful to demonstrate you have some relationships with some of the coalition partners, but who are additional people that might be missing from your team that you hope to be bringing into the fold through the process. So we have seen in some of these examples of previous prizes, examples from like Rebecca and Maddie's team. I mean, Team Philly in some capacity has been doing the work they've been doing for 30 years. And then Shanti, her coalition's brand new, right? And so it's all over the map. And I think you'll see similar types of breadth of projects emerging in this cohort of prize winners. Can you know, given that you all are representing those really mature to nascent teams, can you speak further on your experience with that?
It's been awesome. I think it's just been such a gift for us to have this, like we had relationships, right? We did, and we'd worked on some level, but we'd never formalized that. And to have this impetus to be like, we have this issue and we all have a stake in it, and to give and like to have us have this space to be like, we have funding now to think about this. We've made a formal commitment to work on this has been just great. And we've loved this process.
You know, to that end, one of the things we tried to encourage is if teams do win one of the earlier phases, also leverage the other prize winners as peers that can provide resources, information, some of that's supported by some of the types of ongoing events that are provided, the trainings, but also leverage that network, the people that are on conversations like today's event to build those relationships. Sometimes the type of expertise you need isn't in your immediate community. So I'm curious if any of you have had any success navigating that strategy to connect with other people in the prize community.
Coming from the prize community, but it's really given us the push we needed to start to reach out to some of these other communities where we're seeing what we want to do happening. And I don't think we would have done that had we not formalized this.
Yeah, I don't feel like we've like had a proper exchange of information with any of the other prize winners, like one-on-one, but we do regular check-ins with NREL and CEBN. And it's just awesome to hear about the impact of the other project and then think like, you know, reflexively, like, okay, what is the impact we're achieving? Like, what ideas can we build off of that were shared within the group?
Yeah, and I will say, I may have asked this a couple of weeks too early since we are planning a bunch of events with some of your teams to actually directly facilitate that information sharing. But you know, it's helpful to hear that some of that, a little bit of that training has merged in the process. I also we've talked a lot about success strategies, but I think it's also important for us to, you know, and it's helpful for future applicants to acknowledge challenges. So can you speak to what your biggest challenge has been so far and any advice for other applicants stemming out of that challenge?
So, well, what I would say is that I think because a lot of people are going to apply, try to stand out with a compelling write-up is very, very important. And for us, depending on the fact that we already have done some previous work, but we have a funding challenge. It was easier to articulate our thinking to fit into the program requirements. Fortunately, our goal at the time just aligned with the program goal. Therefore, it made it, you know, I believe that appropriate for, you know, the prize to be awarded. So in summary, try to stand out, write a compelling case is very important. So find a subject that aligns with the program goals and missions. I think it's very, very critical challenge that you need to address for you to be able to win.
Yeah, and I would say add to that also lean on your coalition partners to help you stand out and to like really bring out the unique aspects of your concept.
For us, the biggest challenge was that we were like honestly just really naive about how we could solve this problem. Like we're like, oh, all we need to do is just like be intentional about connecting A to B pathway and it's going to work. And what we really discovered in phase 2 is that we had no idea how complex the barriers were for a lot of these single moms. And we were focused on such a narrow sector of our community that we're like, you know, this is super important to do this deep work with them. But in order to accomplish our larger goals of diversifying and accelerating a clean energy workforce locally, like we had to completely rethink like how we were also reaching out to other members in our community who are still underserved, but maybe had, you know, different layers of barriers while we're still trying to chip away at the depth of the barriers that these moms are facing. And that was hard for us to just be like, oh my gosh, like we thought we were going to solve this like with this prize and it's super complicated. And so that was, again, I think the gift of the prize was that we were able to just like really rethink our initially pitched strategy, which we're still working on, and expand it.
Yeah, and I think going back actually to something Rebecca was talking about a moment ago, how, you know, as you've kind of gotten through that, like navigated along the way along the prize, like how have you identified those additional resources that you need? Like where do you look for them? Where can other teams find these resources within the network or elsewhere as they go along the way?
Okay, so for us, this is very important. As I said, the prize help us a lot to build an ecosystem of partners, right? So also in the review, they sent us some additional resources in the review. And then at the conference, they did the same. But through the partnership, for example, we're able to get the counties to call us, hey, here's a grant you can apply for. Okay, that's one. Then the other thing is that because we build relationships with some universities, then we begin to work together to identify, funding programs. So honestly, since after the program, we've been working with the universities to turn in proposal upon proposals, all through this initial prize that we won, and that will form a partnership with these institutions. So that's what I would say at this time. That through the prize, we're able to build partnerships, and then everybody brought something to the table in terms of resources. In addition to what the power connectors gave us, what the reviewers sent to us, and then what we also found out about ourselves.
Yeah,
I guess I would add is the unique opportunity of a prize versus a grant, as well as a bridge to the more prescribed IRA funds, is the flexibility, right? And so I see this as, and we're still kind of frankly in the middle of this, right? But laying the groundwork for the larger investments down the road, and really kind of experiment, right? And kind of build those foundational elements, whether it's additional IRA money or foundational funding. It's a unique bridge that doesn't exist in other places, right? So I said, think outside the box, but to David's point, I see the real importance, particularly of phase one, is really articulating the power of the partnership and the capabilities of each partner is bringing to the table, so.
Yeah, terrific. Shanti, you're going to chime in?
I was just going to say something that's worked out really well for us to access more resources that I don't think was initially intuitive was just doing a lot of research and trying to ask questions of like our state Department of Labor just to understand the job market, and then realizing that we connected with the right person who is their diversity coordinator and wants to help us build pre-apprenticeship positions. And now she's got this whole, avenue that she's going to collaborate with us on, talking to our Department of Environmental Quality, who just got so much money from the federal government that they don't even have enough staff to distribute it, saying, pitch us something, we want to make this succeed. And so it really just started with us like trying to ask questions so we could understand better what to do, and realizing that there's a lot more resources to, build that momentum of our work.
Yeah, and for Team Philly, also our community outreach team that has benefited from this project the most in terms of scaling up their work, has traditionally had like a very restrictive funding like that they work with, so they're not able to do what they actually would like to do to like envision the future that we're moving towards. So it was really like liberating for them to be able to think outside the box and really like meet the community where they are and see what they need, and then to use that as a bridge for more resources.
Terrific. Yeah, and actually one of the things I realized I neglected to include this in my question earlier, but so what you just said and what Shanti just said on the connections, one of the things that I think really helps through these prizes is it gives you a badge of honor, credibility. It's something, you know, to put on your organization's resume, right? And so as you do reach out to your labor department, or David, earlier you mentioned private finance partners, or looking at follow-on funding, other grants. You know, it's helpful to be able to showcase your success in having won one of these prizes. It really is a good entry point, and we've facilitated introductions for prize winners that it's helpful, you know. And I would also just say to folks, even if you're not successful the first time, there are so many of these great prizes coming around the corner constantly. Hold on to that application and just give it a couple of months, and I bet something that is a good fit for you will come around again, and you can put it in an even stronger application. I know we're almost at time. Oh,
So, can I just say something that I have to need to run, is that I think people talk a lot about just transition. People talk a lot about energy underserved communities, right? These offer the opportunity to not only examine it, but we'll talk about the barrier. There are deep and systemic barriers in this, you know, and this is the opportunity to really kind of do a deep dive in documenting it for the federal government, for philanthropy to really understand it beyond kind of the buzzwords, right? So
yeah, I'm really glad you raised that, because you'll see in this prize and some of the other recent community-based prizes, there's real intentionality around the Justice 40 goals and the, you know, angle of actually reaching diverse and underrepresented communities. And you do see that represented in the prize winners, but it's not something, the systemic barriers you address cannot be just addressed through a few of these prizes. This is about bringing the right stakeholders at the table to be part of that bigger change, because some of those bigger dollar grant amounts and ongoing government contracts, I mean, that's going to take years to really get that pipeline to be a little bit more inclusive. Yeah. I want to just remind folks that the floor is also yours. I've been asking a lot of the questions and fielding things that I'm seeing coming across in the chat, but as we have just a couple more minutes left, if you've got final questions, either for our prize winners, or you know, for Power Connectors, feel free to put your final question in the chat. You know, I want to just also thank all of our Power Connectors and our previous prize winners for, again, sharing this wealth of information with applicants. Remind all of our applicants that you can reach out. Ala, maybe you can show one more time the Power Connector intro slide. We will disseminate the recording, the slide deck from today, as well as links to all of these resources so that you can reach out to us and set up those office hours. So quick rapid round, going around the horn to Rebecca, Shanti, Maddie, David. Any final words of wisdom or advice for our prize applicants?
build the team.
Start early.
Did you say start early?
Yeah, I said start early.
Yes, excellent advice.
Yes, and then work with their connectors and power connectors.
Great.
And I would say it's okay to start from a place of curiosity, and that might be the best place to start without having the answers.
Excellent.
Read the guidelines. Read the guidelines.
Yes.
I mean, just apply. Don't be afraid to take a risk.
Absolutely. The worst that happens is it's not a hard application. Worst that happens is you don't get it, but again, there are going to be many bites of the apple. So thank you all. Thank you also to our audience for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in some of those office hours and to hearing about the fantastic proposals that you're putting forward. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matty, Rebecca, and Shanti. Bye-bye.
You take care. Bye now.
You too.